Hello and welcome back to Deep Dive Daily. It is fantastic to have you with us again.
It's great to be back.
We are ready to jump into another topic that, on the surface, might seem, well, a little dry, but once you start to peel back the layers, it is just full of drama, constitutional quirks, and some really, really surprising history.
You're absolutely right. Today's topic is a bit of a masterclass in, don't judge a book by its cover.
Or, in this case, don't judge a political office by its title.
Precisely.
Exactly. So today we are turning our attention to New Delhi. We are walking down the corridors of power, past the Prime Minister's office, past the President's massive estate, and we are knocking on the door of the #2 spot.
The Vice President of India.
The Vice President.
Yeah.
The second highest constitutional office in the entire country.
That's the one.
Right. And I have to be honest with you, and I think a lot of our listeners might feel this way too. When I think of the Vice President, I usually think, okay, and?
And what? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we hear about the Prime Minister every single hour of the day. We see the President during the Republic Day parade or, swearing in the government. But the VP, it feels like an office that flies aggressively under the radar.
Aggressively under the radar is a great way to put it. It's a very quiet role most of the time.
It's so quiet that some of the legal scholars we read for this deep dive, and these are people who study the Constitution for a living, have given this office a pretty biting nickname.
I know the one you're talking about.
His Superfluous Highness.
His Superfluous Highness.
Oh,
It stings a little, doesn't it?
it really does. It sounds like an insult from a period drama or something. But the more I read, the more I realized that this superfluous nature, it isn't an accident. It's actually designed that way.
Precisely. And that is the key insight we really need to start with. The role is just full of contradictions. It's modeled on the American vice president, yet in practice, it functions completely differently.
Right.
It's a role with almost no specific job description in the Constitution other than, well, waiting or presiding. And yet, as we'll see, it is the absolute linchpin for the continuity of the entire Indian state.
And that is our mission for this deep dive. We are going to unpack the mystery of His Superfluous Highness. We're going to look at the incredibly complex way they get elected, which, spoiler alert, is not how the president gets elected.
Not even close.
We're going to look at the two hats they wear and the bizarre fact that they technically don't get paid for being vice president.
That is probably my favorite trivia point from all of this.
It's incredible. And we're going to explore those rare high-stakes moments when this spare tire suddenly becomes the most important person in the world's largest democracy.
And to do that, we really have to get into the head of the Founding Fathers, specifically someone like Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, because nothing in that Constitution is there just for, for vibes.
Right.
If the VP role seems weird, there is a very specific legal logic behind it.
So let's dive in. Section 1, the rank and the election.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we've established that the VP is #2 in the official warrant of precedence. The president is 1, the VP is 2, and the prime minister is 3.
Correct. So protocol-wise, in a formal setting, he is senior to the PM.
Which is wild in itself, given the actual power dynamics. But let's talk about how he gets there. If I want to be president, I know there is this massive electoral college involving basically every elected leader in the country. Is it the same for the VP?
No, and this is the first major point where people tend to get confused. The vice president is also elected by an indirect election, just like the president.
So not a popular vote.
Exactly. You and I don't vote for him directly, but the group of people who do vote for him, the Electoral College, is completely different from the president's.
Okay, lay it out for me. Who actually gets a golden ticket to vote for the VP?
It is exclusively the members of both houses of parliament. That's it.
Just the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha?
That's the entire list.
No one else.
No one else. But there are two very, very specific differences from the presidential election that tell us a lot about what this role is supposed to be.
Okay.
Difference number one involves the nominated members.
Right. So in Parliament, most people are elected, but the president also nominates 12 members to the Rajya Sabha from fields like art, science, sports, and so on.
Exactly. Now, in the presidential election, those nominated members are explicitly banned from voting.
Which makes sense because the president nominated them. It would be a huge conflict of interest. I pick you, you vote for me.
Precisely. It keeps the process clean. But for the vice presidential election, those nominated members do get to vote.
Really? Why the change in the rules?
Well, partly, yes, it's because the VP didn't nominate them. There's no direct quid pro quo.
Okay, that makes sense.
But it's also because the VP's main job is going to be the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. These nominated members sit in that very house. So the thinking is it makes sense that they should have a say in who presides over them.
I see. So they get a vote in picking their own boss,
Yeah.
essentially.
In a way, yes. But okay, difference number 2 is the big one. And it's all about the states.
Right. Let's go.
This is the big one. In the presidential election, every single elected member of every legislative assembly, every MLA in India gets a vote. From Kerala to Kashmir, the states all participate.
Which feels right, because the president is the head of the entire state, the whole country.
Exactly. He represents the federation. But for the vice presidential election, the state legislative assemblies are completely excluded.
Shut out.
They're totally shut out of the room.
That feels, well, isn't that a bit undemocratic, or at least anti-federal? I mean, shouldn't the number 2 also represent the whole country?
It definitely feels that way at first glance, and you're not the first person to ask that.
So why? Why silence the states on this?
This is where we have to go back to the Constituent Assembly debates. This exact question was actually raised. Members stood up and asked Dr. Ambedkar, why are you cutting out the states from this?
And what was his logic?
It was purely functional. He argued that you have to look at what the person actually does on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
The president is the head of state. His administration, his powers, they extend to the entire country. They affect the relationship between the center and the states. So logically, the states must have a voice in choosing him.
I follow that. That's clear.
But the vice president, what is his normal day-to-day job?
Well, as we said, he presides over the Rajya Sabha. He's the chairman.
Correct. His primary normal function is to preside over the Council of States. He is, for all intents and purposes, a parliamentary officer.
So Ambedkar's argument was just about efficiency.
Efficiency and relevance. Ambedkar argued that since his main job is basically managing a House of Parliament, why on earth would you complicate the election by dragging in 30-plus state assemblies?
Okay, but what about the fact that he might have to become president?
He addressed that too. He pointed out that the VP only acts as president on a rare occasion and only for a temporary period. He essentially said, look, this guy's mostly going to be ringing the bell in the Rajya Sabha. Let's just let Parliament pick him.
I love that phrase, rare occasion. It feels like the Constitution is just sort of crossing its fingers and saying, hopefully we never actually need this spare tire.
It's a very optimistic document in that way. But it really reveals that the founders saw the VP primarily as a legislative chairman, not as a co-president or a president in waiting.
Okay, so we have the who. It's just the MPs. Now, how do they actually vote? Because I saw this phrase in our notes. Proportional representation by means of the single transferable vote.
Ah, yes. The STV system.
That sounds like a real mouthful. Can we break that down in simple terms? Because I feel like we hear that term every election cycle and we all just sort of nod along without really knowing what it means. It's not just whoever gets the most votes wins, is it?
No, absolutely not. It is not first past the post. It's actually much more sophisticated. Imagine you're ordering pizza for a group of friends.
Okay, I'm with you. Pizza analogy, I can handle this.
If you use first past the post, and let's say 4 people want pepperoni, 3 people want mushroom, and 3 people want olive, well, pepperoni wins.
Right, even though 6 people, a majority, didn't want it.
Exactly. In the single transferable vote system, you don't just tick one box, you rank your choices. You say, okay, I want pepperoni first, but if I can't have pepperoni, my second choice is mushroom, and if I can't have that, I'll take the olive.
So I have a backup plan for my vote.
Precisely. You mark your preferences. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, to win, a candidate needs to get a certain quota of votes. Usually it's 50% plus 1. If nobody gets that on the first count of number 1 votes, the person with the least votes is eliminated.
Poor guy. He's out.
He's out. But here's the magic. The votes for that losing candidate aren't just wasted, they are transferred to those voters' second choices.
Oh, I see. So if I voted for the guy who came in dead last, my vote isn't just thrown in the trash. It automatically moves to my second favorite guy.
Exactly. And this process continues, eliminating the last place candidate and transferring their votes until someone finally crosses that 50% finish line.
That is actually a much fairer way to do it, especially for a high office like this. You don't want a vice president that, say, 60% of Parliament actively dislikes.
Precisely. It ensures the winner really has the broad support of the House, not just a narrow plurality. And crucially, this voting is all done by secret ballot.
Secret ballot? That's interesting, because usually in Parliament, parties issue a whip, right? They say, everyone in our party must vote for this bill or else.
Yes, the anti-defection law applies to normal legislative business. If you defy the party whip on a money bill or something, you can lose your seat.
But not here.
Not for the vice presidential election or the presidential one. The secret ballot means the anti-defection law does not apply.
So I could be a member of Party A, but I could secretly vote for the candidate from Party B, and nobody would ever know.
Theoretically, yes, you are supposed to vote according to your conscience. Now, in reality, party lines are usually followed pretty strictly, but the mechanism for a surprise, for some cross-voting, is there.
Now, what happens if things go wrong? Let's say the election is super close, mud is slung, someone accuses the winner of bribing MPs or something. Who plays referee? Who sorts it out?
It's not the Election Commission, which is what you might expect. It goes straight to the top.
The Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court of India. All doubts and disputes regarding the election of the vice president are decided by them, and their decision is final. There's no appeal.
And this leads to a legal scenario I really want to unpack. It's a bit of a brain teaser.
Go for it.
Okay, let's say I get elected VP, I move into the fancy house, I start my job, I preside over the Rajya Sabha, I'm doing my thing, and I sign a bill that, I don't know, bans pineapple on pizza.
A very controversial start to your term.
Very. But then, 1 month later, the Supreme Court rules on a dispute and says, actually, your election was void. You cheated. You are fired immediately.
Okay, so you're out.
What happens to the law I signed? Is the pineapple ban overturned?
Yeah.
Does everything I did for that 1 month just get erased from history?
This is a crucial safety valve in the Constitution. The answer is no.
No.
The acts performed by the vice president before the date of the Supreme Court's declaration are not invalidated. They remain in force.
So they stick. Even though I wasn't technically supposed to be in that chair when I did them.
Even then, because just imagine the chaos if you did it the other way.
It would be a nightmare.
If you retroactively cancel laws, decisions, parliamentary procedures, the country would be in a total legal deadlock. You'd have to unwind time. So the Constitution basically says, look, for the sake of stability, whatever he did while he held the chair is valid. We just remove him moving forward.
That is a huge relief, honestly. It prevents a legal butterfly effect from wrecking the whole system.
Exactly. It's about continuity.
Okay, let's move to Section 2. We know how the election works. Now I want to know if I can run. What is the checklist of qualifications?
All right. Do you want to role play this? Let's see if you qualify for the job.
Let's do it. I am officially applying for the job of Vice President of India.
Okay. First question, simple one. Are you a citizen of India?
Yes, I am. Check.
Okay, check. Second, have you completed 35 years of age?
I will decline to state my age on air, but for the sake of this hypothetical exercise, let's say yes. Check.
Okay, check. Now here is the first real curveball. Are you qualified for election as a member of the Rajya Sabha?
The Rajya Sabha specifically, not just Parliament in general.
Specifically the Rajya Sabha. And this is a very important and elegant distinction. If you are applying to be president, the requirement is that you must be qualified to be a member of the Lok Sabha, the House of the People.
So why the difference?
Well, it mirrors their primary roles perfectly. The president is the leader of the republic elected by the people's representatives, so he's tied to the popular house, the Lok Sabha. But the VP, his main day-to-day job is to be the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. So it only makes sense that he needs to meet the eligibility criteria for that specific house.
Yeah, that's such a subtle detail, but it makes perfect logical sense when you put it like that.
It does. Now, next question on your application. Do you currently hold any office of profit?
Office of profit. That sounds sinister. What does that actually mean? Does it just mean I can't have another job?
It basically means you cannot be on the government payroll in any other capacity.
Yeah.
You can't be a bureaucrat, a judge, an employee of a state-owned corporation, anything where you draw a salary from the government.
Okay, that makes sense. Separation of powers and all that. But wait, I see sitting ministers running for VP. I see governors running for VP. They're definitely on the government payroll.
Well, welcome to the world of politics. The Constitution has carved out some very, very convenient exceptions.
Of course it has. Let me get.
A sitting president, a sitting vice president, a governor of any state, or a minister, either at the union or state level, are deemed not to hold an office of profit for the purpose of this election.
So they get a special exemption.
They are exempt from the disqualification, yes.
Yeah.
So if you are, say, the governor of Bihar, you don't have to quit your job just to file your nomination papers for VP. You can keep your job, run your campaign, and wait to see if you win.
And if I win, what then?
The moment you enter the vice president's office, you are deemed to have vacated your previous seat. You can't hold both jobs, but you don't have to resign until you win.
That feels like a very practical safety net for politicians. I'll try for a promotion, but if I lose, I still get to keep my current job.
It absolutely is. It encourages experienced people in public life to run for these high offices without the risk of becoming unemployed if they lose.
Okay, so let's say I tick all those boxes. I'm a citizen, I'm 35, I'm qualified to the Rajya Sabha, I don't hold an office of profit. Can I just walk into the returning officer's office and say, sign me up?
Not so fast. We have what I call the nomination hurdles, and these were put in place for a very good reason. In the early days of Indian democracy, you'd sometimes get, how do I put this politely?
Eccentric candidates?
Eccentric is a good word. People running just to see their name on the ballot or for a bit of publicity. To stop that, they introduced a serious barrier to entry. To even file your nomination, you need subscribers.
Subscribers. Like on YouTube.
I wish it were that easy. No, you need electors. You need 20 members of parliament to sign your nomination paper as proposers, and then you need another 20 MPs to sign a seconder.
Wait, so I need to get 40 members of parliament to publicly back my candidacy before I can even get on the ballot?
Yes. 40 MPs have to put their name to your campaign.
Well, that effectively kills any truly independent candidacy, doesn't it?
It completely does. Unless you are the official candidate of a major political party or a big coalition, or you're a person with massive cross-party support, you cannot even get your name in the race. It filters out the non-serious players immediately.
And is there a financial component?
Yes, you have to deposit $15,000 with the Reserve Bank of India as a security deposit.
15,000 seems surprisingly low for such a high office.
It's a token amount now, of course, but the principle is the same. If you fail to get a certain minimum number of votes, you lose that deposit. It's the ultimate humiliation in Indian elections, losing your deposit.
Right, the walk of shame. Okay, so I've cleared all the hurdles. I won the election. Now comes the oath of office.
The solemn moment.
Who swears me in?
The president. Or if he is unavailable for some reason, someone appointed by him for that purpose. You stand there and you swear to bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution and to faithfully discharge your duties.
It must be a heavy moment. You are now officially the second citizen of India.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about job security. Section 3, terms, conditions, and how to get fired. I'm in the chair now. How long do I get to stay?
The standard term is 5 years, same as the president.
And can I be reelected?
Yes, any number of times. There's no term limit. Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, for example, served 2 full terms as vice president.
And can I get fired or removed?
You can, but this is where the comparison with the president gets really, really interesting. We all know the word impeachment.
Right. Impeachment of the president. It sounds like this massive, dramatic legal trial.
It is. To impeach a president, you need a specific ground, which is violation of the Constitution. You need special majorities in both houses. It's an incredibly difficult and high bar to clear.
Okay, so is it the same for the VP? Do they have to prove I violated the Constitution?
No. And this is a huge difference. For the vice president, the process is not called impeachment. It's simply called removal. And surprisingly, the Constitution mentions no ground for removal at all.
Wait, pause right there. No ground.
Not a single one is listed.
So they don't have to prove I broke a law. They don't have to prove I was corrupt or violated the Constitution.
What? No.
So they can just fire me because they don't like my face or they don't like my politics.
Technically, yes. It is a purely political process. If the parliament decides it has lost confidence in you, you are out. There's no need for a judicial-style inquiry.
That makes the vice president's position feel much more vulnerable than the president's.
It is. The president is the head of state. He is insulated and protected from day-to-day politics. The VP, at the end of the day, is a parliamentary officer. If the parliament that elected him doesn't want him anymore, he goes.
So how do they actually do it? What's the process? What's the math?
Well, the process has to start in the Rajya Sabha. This is his house, so they have to be the ones to initiate it.
Okay, that makes sense.
They need to pass a resolution for your removal by what's called an effective majority.
Okay, the alarm bells are ringing again. Effective majority.
Okay.
We have simple majority, absolute majority, special majority. What on earth is an effective majority?
It's a very specific calculation. Let's do a quick math class.
Please, and keep it simple for me.
Let's imagine the Rajya Sabha has a total sanctioned strength of 245 seats.
Okay, 245.
But on the day of the vote, let's say 5 of those seats are vacant. Maybe those members resigned, or passed away, or were disqualified. So the actual number of living, breathing members in the House is 240.
Okay, 240 then members of the House?
An effective majority means more than 50% of that number, 240. So 50% of 240 is 120. You would need 121 votes to pass the resolution.
Got it. So it's the majority of the current strength of the House, ignoring any empty seats.
Exactly. It's a bit tougher than a simple majority, which is just the majority of those who show up to vote that day, but it's easier than a special majority, which usually needs a two-thirds vote.
So the Rajya Sabha passes it with this effective majority. What happens then? Does it go to the president?
No, it goes to the other house, it goes to the Lok Sabha, and the Lok Sabha just needs to agree to it.
By what kind of majority?
Just a simple majority, a majority of members present and voting.
That seems surprisingly easy.
Yeah.
The bar in the Lok Sabha is quite low.
It is significantly easier than removing a president. The Lok Sabha just has to say, yeah, we agree with the Rajya Sabha on this.
Is there any kind of safety catch? Can they just spring this on me on a Tuesday morning while I'm having my breakfast?
No. The one protection you have is that a 14-day advance notice must be given before they can even introduce the resolution in the Rajya Sabha.
So I get 2 weeks' notice? I have 2 weeks to pack my bags?
Huh?
Or I suppose try to convince them to keep me?
Exactly. You get a chance to see it coming.
Now let's talk about vacancies. If I do get removed, or if I resign or die in office, when is the next election held?
This is another one of those weird points of vagueness in the Constitution. If the president's seat becomes vacant, the Constitution is crystal clear. An election must be held within 6 months. It's a hard deadline
Right.
for the vice president.
Mhm.
The Constitution just says the election to fill the vacancy must be held as soon as possible.
As soon as possible. That sounds like something I tell my boss when I haven't finished a project yet. It's not a real deadline.
It's legally vague, yes. It implies urgency, but it doesn't set a ticking clock in the same way the presidency does.
And when the new guy comes in, let's say I was kicked out after just 2 years of my 5-year term, does the new VP just finish my remaining 3 years?
No. And this is a major difference from systems like the U.S. In India, if a new vice president is elected to fill a vacancy, they get a completely fresh start. They serve a full 5-year term from the date they enter office.
The complete reset button.
It is a total reset. And what this does over time is it desynchronizes the elections. You might end up having the presidential election in, say, 2027 and the VP election in 2029 because someone resigned or was removed midway through their term.
It keeps the two constitutional cycles independent of each other.
It does.
Okay, we've covered all the technical stuff, the nuts and bolts. Now let's get to the really fun part. Section 4, the two hats. Because this is where the Jekyll and Hyde nature of this job really comes out.
This is the absolute heart of the superfluous highness problem. The VP has two completely different jobs, and he can never, ever do them at the same time.
Let's start with hat number 1, the day job, the 9 to 5.
Hat number 1 is ex-officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha.
And ex-officio just means by virtue of the office. So because you are the vice president, you are automatically the chairman. You don't get appointed separately.
Correct. And in this role, wearing this hat, he is not superfluous at all. He is powerful. He is effectively the Speaker of the upper house.
What does that entail?
He decides who gets to speak, he maintains order in the House, he interprets the rules of procedure, he can adjourn the House, he can suspend members for bad behavior. His powers are very similar to the Speaker of the Lok Sabha.
So 99% of his time, he is basically a high-powered referee for the upper chamber of parliament.
Yes. In this capacity, he is a legislative officer through and through.
But then there's hat number 2, the emergency hat.
The break glass in case of emergency hat. This is the role that everyone focuses on, even though it so rarely happens, and that is acting president.
When does he actually get to wear this hat?
Only when the president is unavailable. Now, this could be due to a permanent vacancy, like the president's death, resignation, or removal through impeachment.
Or a temporary one.
Or it could be due to a temporary inability. Let's say the president is very ill, or undergoing major surgery, or is on a long trip abroad and unable to discharge his functions.
So the VP steps up. Now, does he become the president?
This is a critical distinction. In the U.S., yes. If the president dies, the VP becomes president. In India, no. He only becomes the acting president. He is a placeholder.
And for how long can he be a placeholder?
For a maximum of 6 months. Because remember, if the president's office is vacant, a new president must be elected within 6 months. The VP is just keeping the seat warm until that election happens.
Now, here is the logistical question that I find fascinating. When he puts on the president hat, what happens to his Rajya Sabha job? Can he run the country in the morning and go ring the bell in parliament in the afternoon?
Absolutely not. That would be a complete violation of the separation of powers. The moment he starts acting as president, he stops performing the duties of the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. He can't do both.
So who takes over the Rajya Sabha then? Does it just run itself?
No, the deputy chairman of the Rajya Sabha takes over and performs all the duties of the chairman.
Okay. And this leads us to the most amusing fact in all of our research, the salary situation.
The unpaid intern theory of the vice presidency.
It is hilarious. Tell the listeners about the salary of the Vice President of India.
Technically speaking, the office of Vice President of India carries a salary of 0 rupees.
0. Nothing.
The Constitution of India fixes no emoluments, no salary for the vice president in that specific capacity.
So he works for free. How is that possible?
Well, no, because he gets paid a salary for his other job. He gets paid for being the chairman of the Rajya Sabha.
So he's on the payroll of the parliament, not the executive branch.
Exactly. He draws his monthly paycheck, which was raised to 4 lakh rupees per month back in 2018, as the chairman of the Council of States.
But wait, let's play out this scenario. The president gets sick, the VP becomes acting president, so he stops being chairman, which means he stops getting the chairman's salary.
Right.
Does he go broke for 6 months? Does he have to take a pay cut to become acting president?
No. The moment he switches hats, he also switches payrolls. When he acts as president, he is entitled to the full salary, allowances, and privileges of the president.
So he actually gets a raise.
He gets a promotion and a raise. He moves into the Rashtrapati Bhavan. He gets the president's salary. He gets the full presidential treatment with all the perks, but only for those few months that he's acting as president.
It's such a fascinating and weird constitutional quirk. It really reinforces that the VP role is a true hybrid. It's a legislative job with an executive spare tire attached to it.
Hybrid is the perfect word for it.
Let's move to Section 5 then. The American comparison. We keep mentioning the U.S., but I want to really drill down into the philosophy here. Why did we copy the American model but then change the most important part of it?
It is the great constitutional divergence. I mean, the Indian VP office is, on the surface, visually modeled on the U.S. VP. Same name, same primary role as chairman of the upper house, the Senate in their case.
Right, but the succession part is totally different.
Completely and fundamentally different. In the U.S., the vice president is the heir apparent. If the U.S. president dies 1 year into a 4-year term, the VP takes over and serves for the remaining 3 years. He is the president.
Think Lyndon B. Johnson after Kennedy was assassinated.
Yeah.
Or Gerald Ford after Nixon resigned.
Exactly. They finished the term. But in India, the VP does not assume the presidency for the unexpired term. He just serves for a few months, makes sure a new election is held, and then he steps back. Or, of course, runs for the job himself.
Why? Why did we make that change? It seems, on the face of it, more stable to just let the VP take over for the rest of the term.
It goes back to the idea of democratic legitimacy for the head of state. In the U.S., the president and the vice president run together on a single ticket.
Right, you vote for the Biden-Harris ticket or the Trump-Pence ticket.
Exactly. So when you vote for the president, you are also, in effect, voting for the vice president. They have a shared, direct mandate from the people.
Sure.
In India, that's not the case. The president is elected by that massive electoral college that includes all the states. The vice president, as we'd established, is elected only by parliament. The Constituent Assembly felt that a person elected only by Parliament shouldn't be allowed to become the full-fledged head of state for 3 or 4 years without a proper election.
I see. He lacks the federal mandate, the buy-in from the states.
Exactly. He doesn't have the backing of the states in his own election. So the founders basically said, you can hold the fort, you can be a temporary guardian, but we need to elect a proper head of state with the full backing of the nation immediately.
And that brings us right back to His Superfluous Highness. The reason scholars call him that is because if you ignore the Rajya Sabha job for a second, he essentially has no assigned function in the Constitution.
He just waits.
It sounds like a pretty thankless job, honestly.
I like to think of it not as a thankless job, but as an insurance policy.
Go on.
Well, you pay for your car insurance every single month. It feels superfluous. It feels like a total waste of money. You get nothing out of it day to day.
Right. Until you have a crash.
But the moment you have a crash, it is the most important and valuable thing you own.
That's a great analogy.
The vice president is the constitutional insurance policy. The Indian state can never be headless. Not for 1 second, not for 1 hour. If the president dies, someone must be there to sign the papers and take command immediately. You can't wait for an election. The VP provides that absolute political continuity.
So his job isn't to do things. His job is to be there just in case.
Exactly. His very existence is the safeguard.
Let's look at Section 6 then. History. Because this insurance policy has been cashed in a few times over the decades.
It has on some very somber occasions.
But first, let's talk about the elections themselves. Because looking at the data tables you sent over, some of these weren't even contests, they were coronations.
No, absolutely. Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, the very first vice president. A world-renowned philosopher, a true statesman, he won unopposed in 1952, and then he was re-elected again unopposed in 1957.
Can you imagine that level of consensus today, winning a national election without a single person running against you?
It speaks to his incredible stature, but also, to the political realities of the time with the dominance of the Congress Party. It happened again with Justice M. Hidayatullah in 79 and Dr. Shankar Dayal Sharma in 87, unopposed.
But then you have the complete opposite, the total landslides. I was looking at the 1992 election. K.R. Narayan versus a candidate named Kaka Jaginder Singh.
Oh, this is a brutal statistic.
K.R. Narayan secured 700 votes from the MPs.
A massive, overwhelming mandate.
Do you know how many votes Kaka Jaginder Singh got?
I do, but tell me.
One.
One single vote.
One solitary vote.
Okay.
I try to imagine him sitting there on election night. Did he even vote for himself? Or maybe he wasn't an MP, so he couldn't.
If he wasn't an MP, he couldn't have voted for himself. That makes it even funnier. Maybe one loyal friend in Parliament cast a vote.
It really highlights how these elections are just a pure numbers game. Because the Electoral College is so small, just Parliament, if the ruling party or coalition has a clear majority in both houses, the VP election is basically a formality.
It is often a foregone conclusion the moment the candidates are announced.
Okay, now let's talk about the tragedies. The moments when the insurance policy was needed, when the VP had to step up.
We've had two presidents die in office. The first was Dr. Zakir Hussain in 1969, and the second was Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed in 1977.
And in both cases, did the system work as designed?
It worked flawlessly. When Dr. Zakir Hussain passed away, the vice president at the time, V.V. Giri, immediately took the oath and became the acting president. The continuity of the state was maintained without a single hitch.
But V.V. Giri's story gets even more interesting, right? Because he didn't just stay on as acting president.
No, he had bigger ambitions. He wanted the main job. So a few months later, he resigned as vice president so that he could run for president in the upcoming election.
Wait, so the president died, the VP became acting president, then the acting president, who was also the VP, resigned. Who was left to run the country?
We actually ran out of people. The Constitution had a contingency plan for this exact unlikely scenario. There's a law that says if both the office of president and vice president are vacant at the same time, the Chief Justice of India takes over as acting president.
So a judge had to run the country.
For a short period, yes. The Chief Justice, M. Hidayatullah, had to step in and act as president until the election was over.
That is constitutional musical chairs.
It really was. But it proves that the system, with all its backups and redundancies, actually works. There was never a vacuum of power.
And what about the other side of it? Not just president becoming unavailable, but what about the VP himself?
Well, we saw that with Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, who was VP when Dr. Rajendra Prasad was president. There were times when President Prasad was ill or on a long state tour to the USSR in 1960, and Radhakrishnan discharged the functions of the president for those temporary periods.
And sadly, we've seen the reverse tragedy, too, a vice president dying in office.
Yes, Krishna Kant, who was the vice president under President K.R. Narayanan, he was the first and so far the only vice president to die while holding the position back in 2002. It's a very somber reminder that these are human beings carrying the immense weight of the state on their shoulders.
So we're coming towards the end of our deep dive.
Yeah.
And I want to circle back to where we started. That nickname, His Superfluous Highness.
I think we've pretty thoroughly debunked that nickname by now.
I think so, too. After this conversation, it feels deeply unfair.
It's a role of what you could call latent power. Most of the time, 99.9% of the time, he's the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. And let's not downplay that. That is a vital, powerful job, managing the upper house, steering legislation, keeping the peace. That's the engine room of democracy.
Right. That's not superfluous at all?
Not at all. But that secondary role, the waiting role, that's the safety net. And you don't appreciate a safety net until you're falling. The vice president ensures that the Indian state can survive the ultimate shocks. Whether it's death, illness, or crisis, the system holds because that office exists.
And it's such a beautiful example of how India didn't just copy-paste from the West. We looked at the American system and we said, okay, we like the rank, we like the title, but we need to adapt it to fit our own parliamentary soul.
We don't want a successor, we want a guardian. I think that's the fundamental
A
distinction.
guardian. I love that. That captures it perfectly.
It really is a fascinating and unique piece of constitutional engineering.
So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. Think about the psychology of being vice president. You are number 2 in the country. You have the fancy house, the motorcade, the guards, the title. But you have no real executive power of your own.
Not unless disaster strikes.
Exactly. Your ultimate relevance, your moment in history, depends entirely on the misfortune of the president. It puts an incredible amount of weight on patience, on duty, on being ready. It's a role that demands you be prepared to lead 1.4 billion people at a moment's notice while being humble enough to just preside over parliamentary debates day after day, week after week.
It takes a very specific kind of temperament, a specific kind of statesman to do that job well.
It really, really does. Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive into the office of the Vice President of India. We hope you learned something new about the machinery that keeps our democracy running, often silently in the background.
It's always more complex and I think more human than it looks on paper.
If you enjoyed this conversation and you want to keep exploring these kinds of topics with us, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel Deep Dive Daily. It really helps us keep the lights on and the research flowing.
And please do leave a comment. We love reading your takes and your questions.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you in the next Deep Dive.